Hey guys, so today is a chilly 43 degrees. Yeah, so it's actually a little cold out here. It got down to about 39 degrees this morning. So yeah, I'm actually, for the first time, I'm wearing long sleeve. So I thought I'd do a little repair video. I'm going to replace the fuel grommet here on my Echo SRM 225 because this one here has got cracks on it. And also while I'm at it, I'll also put some brand new fuel lines on it as well while I'm at it. Even though it might not really need new fuel lines, but I'm going to replace them anyways. Just to show y'all how to replace a fuel line on any of these 225 series, like the SRM 225 like you see here, the curved shaft model GT 225, or even the stick edger PE 225, which basically they're just all the same. And so without further ado, we'll get started. Alright, so just to make all this a little bit easier, I'm going to take the air cleaner off. Alright, I'm going to close the choke so no debris will get into the engine. So next I'm going to completely take the fuel cap off, just to make it a little bit easier for me to try and get this fuel grommet off. Okay, so now we are going to need a screwdriver so we can try and pop this grommet off. Now you can pop it off with the fuel lines still intact. Now if you do damage the grommet, then don't worry about that because we're going to put a brand new grommet in anyways. Okay. Sometimes you kind of want to get to the other side too. Then you just simply pull it right out. There we go. So let me reach the fuel line from inside the gas tank so I can, just to get the fuel filter off, just so we can be able to get all the grommets off. Whenever you take the fuel filter off, just make sure you don't lose this little ring. Alright, so next we're going to need to do is just disconnect the fuel lines from the carburetor. So let me go ahead and just pull all this out from the tank. So there goes the fuel vent. It's already off. And we'll just try and pull these lines off of the carburetor. There we go. Alright, so now they're off. So right here we got our brand new fuel grommet. So the part number for these fuel grommets is V137000030 from Echo. So this will usually fit on most Echo equipment. Some can be different. And so I'll open this up and we'll install our new grommet. Alright, so before we install the grommet, so there's like a little dot here on the grommet that will go toward the back, because this little hole right here will put our primer line on it. This hole right here will put our line for the fuel vent, and then the very front hole is where we'll hook up our main fuel line. And so I'll start installing the grommet. Alright, so just for installing the grommet, which y'all have seen me do this before on my aunt's Echo PB2100 leaf blower. So you basically just set it in, then you just start at the same time, just start pushing, and take a dull screwdriver. You want to use a very dull screwdriver because otherwise you could easily can damage the fuel grommet. So do it real gently, and at the same time just push, and it should just pop right in. So we're just almost in there. Okay. Alright, I just heard it pop in, so we're in. I'm just going to kind of press on it just to make sure that we are in really good. Alright, so the hard part is all done, and now for the easy part, and we'll install the fuel lines. So before I would start to install new fuel lines, I like to basically take the new fuel lines, still leave the old ones, just to measure them, just that way I'll get the exact same length of the fuel lines. So without further ado, we'll start installing new fuel lines. Okay, so I'm going to start out with measuring the length of the fuel line for the fuel vent. Okay, so this size of fuel line is a 3 millimeter inside diameter by 5 millimeters outside diameter. So we'll just measure that to length and then kind of cut it at about right there. That ought to do it. And just to make it easy to slip the fuel line into the grommet, I like to just cut the end of the line at an angle like that. That'll make it a lot easier to install the line into the tank. So while I'm at it, I'll measure the length for the main fuel line, and again it's the exact same size, a 3 millimeter inside diameter by 5 millimeters outside diameter. So you need about at least maybe 7 inches of fuel line. I'm going to just make this one just a tad longer, just because I'll need to kind of cut it at an angle. Just to make it a lot easy. And then now, finally, for the fuel line for the primer. And so it's a size 3 millimeter inside diameter by 6 millimeters outside diameter. So again, I'll just measure them together and cut them up to length. And again, I'll just cut the end of it at an angle as well. Alright, so now we've got our fuel lines all measured up to length, and we'll start installing them onto the machine. Alright, so now I'm going to first start out by putting the fuel line on for the fuel vent. So I stuck the fuel vent back on. Just to make it a little bit easier to get it in, I'm going to spray the fuel grommet with some WD-40. That should be enough. And then I'll just insert the line into the hole of the grommet. You don't really need to put in that much in. So that should probably be good enough for now. I could always push in some more. Alright, so next I'll install the primer line. So we'll just try and insert that in. So I'll just kind of leave that there like that for now. So I'm going to kind of spray the nipple on the carburetor a little bit, just so that way it'll make it a lot easier to put the fuel line in. So I'll go right ahead and just connect it to the carburetor. Now you hook up the primer line on the left nipple of the carburetor, and you want to make sure it goes in tight, because otherwise your machine will have an air leak. And finally, now for the main fuel line. Now this one we'll need to try and push a lot more in. Alright, so I'll get back to y'all once I've pushed out some more line. Alright, so once you've pulled out just plenty of fuel line, you can just kind of make the end of the hose, cut it straight, and we'll just take our fuel filter. First we'll put our little ring on. And the fuel filter, it's easy to put the fuel filter on when you've sprayed the end of it with some WD-40. Makes it go in a lot easier. Right now, we'll just push that ring a little further, just so it will prevent the fuel line from just falling off, and then we'll just install it back into the tank. Alright, so once that you've put your fuel line connect onto the carburetor, just take your line with the fuel filter on, just drop it back into the gas tank. Alright, and then finally, for the fuel vent, let me actually put the cap back on, just so we won't, just to prevent gas from spilling. Alright, so for the fuel vent, from where it goes into a pocket right over here, right over where the starter is. So we'll just take it, and it just goes in just right there. It's kind of a very tight spot. Try to get your fingers through there. So that's basically what you want. And now finally we'll just stick our air filter and air cleaner back on. And we're all done. Cool. So I guess I'll do a little startup on it just before I let y'all go. Alright, so we'll start it up. Okay, turned on, choke. Let's give it some primes just to make sure it's working. Yep. Which that means we installed our fuel lines at the correct spots where it should be. Which that's good. Alright, let's give it some pulse, see what it'll do. Yeah, she's a little bit cold natured. So that's how you would install your fuel lines and a fuel grommet on any of these Echo 225 series. So yeah, this will, just like I said, this will also go for replacing your fuel lines on a GT 225 or PE 225. So I hope y'all enjoyed this video. So thanks for watching.